Nobody respects the Hariyama these days, and I'm about to change that. Big boy's got hands. While it's never used competitively, this thing really does provide more value than people expect. It's got a huge base 144 HP that offsets its mediocre defenses, and honestly, it makes it pretty bulky. Along with that, it's got 120 attack, which ain't bad, and so here's the plan. When you think of the move Belly Drum, Hariyama is pretty much the OG. At the cost of half of our health, we go ahead and max our attack to +6, and in the process, activate a Citrus Berry to get us pretty healthy. The cool part is that its ability Thick Fat is able to effectively allow us to resist both fire and ice moves, which essentially just adds bulk and could allow us to spot to set up a Belly Drum in the right matchup. After the setup, Stab Drain Punch not only deletes pretty much everything, but also heals us in the process, which pairs super nicely with the set. It's got Earthquake for good secondary damage when needed, but the sauce comes with Priority Bullet Punch. We've got Terra Steel for defensive help, but it's also a double whammy in boosting up damage and Bullet Punch for when we need to be fast. Hariyama is the type of guy that no one sees as a huge threat, but it can easily bust open games, and today it's time to get the sumo wrestler going. So nowadays it's all Iron Hands this, Iron Hands that. What about my boy Normal Hands? I honestly feel like Hariyama is way better than people give it credit for. It's thick, it's here to party, and his arms are hairy. So that's the plan today. Now without any further nonsense, let's go ahead and just jump into the match. So as we get started, go ahead and do me a favor, double check and see if you're subscribed. Most people watching this video are not subscribed. You can hit the button and help me out. One of these days, I'll hit 400K. So my opponent decides to lead off with the Cleaver. I've got the Doorknob, and Registeel is here for one reason, pretty much only, and that's to set up some Stealth Rock. Now, I kind of thought that they would go for the Stone Axe just to set up Stealth Rock of their own. Turns out they're probably a little bit afraid of a Heavy Slam or something along the lines of that, so they go for the U-turn, and as they bring in Landorus, Standing Air Doggo is intimidating, but my body is clear, so, you know, I guess it just goes right through me. Regardless, I do get my Stealth Rock up. Also, a little intel on the Cleaver. As it goes for the U-turn on the turn 1, I feel like that kind of leads me to believe that it's probably Choice Scarf. As a lot of Cleavers are, I'm going to go ahead and go with that. At least that's how I'm going to play around it. So I decide this Landorus either has two options. Either going to go for the Earthquake and get big damage, or they go for another U-turn pivot and get a great position. Turns out that is what they do. Absolutely busting my Milotic balls. They go for that U-turn, allowing them to now have a matchup on this thing. And, you know, it's hard to get a matchup when there's first two turns U-turns. So this time they end up switching into the Superior. It's funny, we're kind of the same guy, right? You get a couple of snaky fellas. On any other day, I feel like we'd probably be homies, but today this is not ideal. Now, Superior generally runs two sets. It's either going to be full offense with just going to go for like a Leaf Storm, or it's a Leech Seed subset. Now, I decide to stay in because of how this dude's playstyle has been on the first few turns. I feel like they're not going to go for the obvious play, right? I decide to click the Dragon Tail as they do go for the Leech Seed. Tells me everything I need to know about friggin' Superior over here. And honestly, that's worse. I'm far worse off seeing that. That means it's going to be Substitute with Glare and Leech Seed and Leaf Storm, probably. And that's not easy to play around. So as I Dragon Tail in the Landers would actually be really sick if I was competitive Milotic. Turns out though, I'm obviously Marvel Scale with the Flame Orb there. And as they take a little bit of my health from the Leech Seed here, I find myself in another spot where staying in doesn't benefit me that much because I continue to just lose health from both the Burn and the Leech Seed, but I can just go for the Recover because surely this thing's going to click U-turn, and that's exactly what it does. I don't want to give them another free matchup position, so I go for the Recover here, and they're just going to go right back into Superior. It's like, no, this is the matchup you're going to have to deal with, buddy. We're getting slithery with it. So I go for that Recover, gets me nearly back to full, and sadly, though, the Leech Seed is doing its thing. I do need to figure out a way to play around a substitute Superior. If this thing doesn't have sub, I will be happy, but I mean, it's almost guaranteed that it's a sub-seed set. I don't know what it is about fast grass types, but these things have been pissing me off for like a decade now. Fast grass types with Leech Seed are just the bane of my existence, and honestly, that's why I much prefer to see a full offense Superior, because this thing can play around me pretty well. So I decided to switch. Melodic in here is not really getting me anywhere, so I figure they probably either go for the Leaf Storm or the Substitute here. Regardless, I go Meowscarada. And the reason for that is because if this thing is the set that I think it is, as it does go for the Substitute, its only attacking is probably Leaf Storm. We haven't seen a Glare yet, but, you know, it could be Terra Fire Blast, but whatever. I decided to bring in the Meowscarada just because I can take a Leaf Storm easily. It also cannot Leech Seed me, at least until, you know, I turn into full Dark type, which I do. I go for the Dark Pulse because I want to break the sub here. And I know one thing is they're not going to click the Leech Seed here at least. So I get that Dark Pulse off, gonna at least break the sub. And that is at least, you know, step number one to not falling into a deep superior depression. So they do go for the glare, however, and that, you know, that's, it almost fit, it's here. I can only describe the feeling as if someone took your balls and slammed them in a car door. Hey, sorry, my dog, someone must have walked past my house, which warrants the dog to bark. So here's the thing, I'm paralyzed now. I'm no longer grass type, so I'm like, well, I don't know what, this thing's probably gonna leech seed here now. I don't know, it doesn't have a great matchup on Meowscarada regardless. It might just go for the Leaf Storm. Regardless, I decided to switch into Skuntank, and it turns out they go back into Cleaver, who, you know, is definitely faster now because I'm paralyzed on Meowscarada, but we got ourselves in a little double switch situation where now, as I go Skuntank into a Cleaver, it's kind of a weird matchup. Neither of us have a great spot here. I figure they probably want to set up Stealth Rock though. So I'm gonna go ahead and click a nice little Choice Banded Crunch is my best damage, but they go for a Defog. It's not gonna be the Choice Scarf Cleaver that I once expected. And Defog Cleaver is kind of one of the GOATs, right? This thing can defog, and then it can not only set up its own Stealth Rock, but also get huge damage in the process with the Stone Axe. So, you know, the rocks, the rock table has been turned. I have Stealth Rock on my side, they get rid of theirs. I do finish it off with a Choice Band Crunch though, so I mean, at least I take care of Cleaver. That's kind of a trade that I'm willing to make at this point in the match. So, sadly, however, this allows them to freely switch into a Gyarados without any punishment. Stealth Rock is gone. It gets an Intimidate. A CB Crunch is not going to do much. But I'm just worried about this thing freely setting up Dragon Dance here. And that's exactly what they're going to do. They have some momentum on their side, and they're for sure going to play with it. So I go for the Crunch anyway. I do end up getting the defense drop, which is cool. I was able to outspeed, which is nice. But now as they go for the Dragon Dance, this thing is getting, it's a little bit frightening. So I got the chip there with the Crunch. And as we see this thing's leftovers, it gets that +1 to attack and speed. Buddy is frightening. We know it's at least not Moxie, so what I'm gonna try to do here is at least save Skuntank for an insurance policy. Choice Banded Sucker Punch is nice. Not only that, but pair that with the fact that once they kill it with something, Aftermath is gonna do a nice little chunk to it. So I decided to bring in my Milotic. I'm like, hey, I am you, but just, you know, 2 generations later on the special side. So I take a Waterfall easily. Marvel Scale Boost is able to help me out defensively here. This thing's continuing to heal with the leftovers. And honestly, my best thing I can do really is try to just Dragon Tail this thing out and just save the Gyarados problem for later. But I figure as long as I can take another attack here, I just go for a Recover. I figure Earthquake is probably their best thing they can do, and I think I can live one at +1. So I go for the Recover there. It turns out as I outsped, I was confused as shit, but they clicked Dragon Tail. And that makes total sense. So the Dragon Dance, Dragon Tail Gyarados, this thing's like support and offense at the same time. But that's actually not that bad because I got a free recover. So my Milotic saved in the back. That's a great check for things like the Landorus. It's also obviously really good against the Gyarados. So, you know, that's really not that bad of a sequence there. So it drags in the Hariyama, however, and it feels a little too early to get the Hariyama going. I don't have anything to even hit this thing neutrally with the Hariyama. So I decided to switch into Skuntank essentially as a sack switch. I just wanted to be able to freely get back in something like Milotic, and as I switch, they end up switching as well. So they bring in the Landorus, and I figure that's probably because they fear the Thunder Punch on that turn. Full health Hariyama could take any attack from that Gyarados, and then a Thunder Punch knocks it out, so they decide to make the safe play going into the Landorus there. So it ends up working decently for me, because as I go Skuntank, I figure I'm only going to get a little bit of value out of this thing anyway, and a full health Landorus is a bad time. So I go for the Choice Band Sucker Punch. Not only does that do over half, but as they finish me off with a U-turn, they then have to take some Aftermath. So just like that, Skuntank provides some decent value in getting Landorus into a easily killable range there. And as the game proceeds here, it's feeling like my win condition is gonna have to be something like, if I can get Hariyama set up fully, I have a great matchup, especially since I got that chip there on the Landorus. The only thing will be the Gyarados, but that's a bridge we're gonna have to cross once we get there. Honestly, also, I can take attacks from it. So as they finish me off with a U-turn, I get to see what they want to bring in. And as it's going to be the Hisui and Gudra, I can decide a matchup, and it's Hariyama time, baby. I'm going to go right for the Belly Drum, because surely this forces this thing out. And while they do have 2 Intimidate switch-ins, being both the Gyarados and the Landorus, it's going to hinder me a little bit. But as they do switch into the Gyarados here, first of all, I would have loved to get some Stealth Rock up before I got this going, but the vibes just felt like a good time for Hariyama. So I go for that Belly Drum. Amazingly enough, on the switch, it works out perfectly. I maximize my attack, actually sitting at +6 now. The Intimidate happened before the Belly Drum, so I max out my attack anyway. I then get that Citrus Berry, which is great. Hariyama is now healthy as hell, and this is a game-changing matchup. We know that this Gyarados has the Dragon Tail. They're gonna have to click it here, but if this thing isn't max defense, I can kill it with a +6 Drain Punch. And as I outspeed, because they had to go for the Dragon Tail there, that does get the knockout, reveals this thing is probably just max attack and speed. So that is incredibly clutch. And now Hariyama is set up for some pretty decent success here. I'm able to take care of the Gyarados. Not only that, but the Drain Punch heals me all the way to full. And as Landorus comes in, it does get an Intimidate. So that puts me just to +5 attack. Doesn't really matter. But here's the thing. What they could do is switch this thing out and then save it for another Intimidate switch in. But they also haven't seen that I have the Bullet Punch. I go for the priority in the Bullet Punch. The amount of chip that we got on that Landorus earlier shows its value there and putting it in range for that Bullet Punch to knock it out. Down goes the Lando. And just like that, you know, Hariyama has become a pretty massive problem. We got 6 fingers. We're here to Bullet Punch some shit. So in comes the Tornadus now. Now this thing, again, with that Stealth Rock up, is making me a little bit afraid. But knowing that a Bleak Wind Storm or something like that is probably their best bet in damage, I decided to go for the Terra Steel. Not only does that help me out defensively, but it also is obviously going to boost up the Bullet Punch. And a +5 Terra boosted Bullet Punch probably just has enough to knock this thing out, at least I think. And I punch him right in the titties. That is going to take care of the Tornadus, which is incredibly clutch. People forget that the priority in Bullet Punch on this thing is amazing. And just like that, we're absolutely schmoovin' with the arms. The hairy arm. So they go back into Superior now. Now the thing about this is they can glare me or something. They're going to be faster. They do decide to go for the glare. I figure a Bullet Punch there probably doesn't knock it out, actually. So I decided to go for the Drain Punch. I think actually the Bullet Punch there was probably just a roll on whether or not it kills. I should have gone for the Bullet Punch there. I went for the Drain Punch, got greedy. Now I get glared. Not only that, but then I get fully paralyzed. So while that does kind of suck, there's worse positions to be in. All this thing can really do is go for a Leech Seed and then a Leaf Storm. So I figure this is still mostly fine. They do go for the Leech Seed here, which is annoying. I do get the Drain Punch off, however, which is going to knock out their Superior. And with their final mon being the Hisuian Gudra in the back, you know, all I got to do is just bop him one with a Drain Punch, and that's the game. So I take care of the Superior. The Leech Seed doesn't work if there's nobody there to be the recipient of the health. So as they go into their final mon being the Gudra, here is the thing. They do still have the Terra in their back pocket. So the Drain Punch, I mean, if they have a Terra, they click it here, right? So I don't end up going for the Drain Punch and for that reason, and I end up going for the Earthquake instead, just to guarantee at least I can get like some neutral damage. It turns out it's going to be Terra Fairy, so a Bullet Punch would have been sick, but Terra Fairy, Hisuian Gudra could just be a little bit of a problem here if there's one scenario. So I do get fully paralyzed because of course I do, and they have the Dragon Tail. I'm like, brother, how many Dragon Tails do you have on one team? Just 2, I guess, but still, it seems like too many. And that is going to force out the Hariyama, and just like that, it turns out that glare was not ideal for me. So that drags in my low tick, and just like that, now the match has changed. Now, obviously, they just have 1 mon left. As I've got a decent bit, if we can get through this Gudra, boy, would that be nice. But I mean, if there's anything I know about Hisuian Gudra is this thing is a dick. It's easy. It's not as easy to get through as you think. So I go for the Scald there just to kind of see if I can roll for a burn. And exactly the set that I was worried about turns out to come to fruition. It is going to be an Acid Armor Body Press Gudra set. Now that's a huge problem, just considering the fact that all I have left pretty much are physical attackers, other than special attacking Paralyzed Meowscarada. So only thing I can really do is just kind of be at this thing's mercy. I go for another Scald, hope for the burn there. I don't get it. They go for another Acid Armor, and obviously I cannot Dragon Tail the thing because of its Fairy type, but also they don't have any mons to hard switch it into. So, you know, I'm a little bit in trouble here. They have a +4 to defense, but honestly, all I can really hope is that it doesn't have like recover or rest. Sorry. So if I go for a recover of my own, just to get nice and healthy, I figure, you know what, maybe I can, if I recover there, I can take a Body Press. I do take it nicely. That ends up getting a critical hit because of course it does. But as this thing continues to heal with leftovers, I really just need to fire off Scalds, either try to get a crit or get a burn and lower it to a range where I can knock it out with what I've got left. The problem is going to become that the match time is down to 3 minutes left. So the timer is going to come into play. I do not get a burn on my last Scald there. They finished me off with a Body Press, and now I find myself in a position that I could have easily avoided had I gotten off that Bullet Punch on the Superior and not gotten paralyzed on the Hariyama. The regret is massive on a game that I thought was just an easy Hariyama sweep, but now things are getting crazy. I have 4 mons left. I figure my best bet is just to go into Meowscarada. If I don't get paralyzed, I can at least get off a big energy ball. And by big energy ball, I mean do like 20% damage to it. So that's kind of the best thing that I can do here. I don't get paralyzed, and I'm still faster, which is sweet. So I do get off the energy ball here. Sometimes you just gotta throw balls at him. It does do, you know, a chunk. I got it down below half, and it's a winnable matchup at this point. They do just finish me off with a Body Press. It's now 3-1, and looking at what I've got left, my best option against a stall out Hisuian Gudra, and hear me out here for a second, is gonna end up being Dodrio. And I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out here. I go into the Dodrio, and there's only 60 seconds left in the battle timer. So, I mean, it's more than likely that this is not even going to come to a full conclusion other than timer. But what I can do with this is click endure. You may be wondering, how does that save me? First of all, it knocks off time, but what it also does is gonna, as they go for the body press, knocks me down to 1 HP with the endure. That's gonna then activate my Wiki Berry. And this Dodrio has got some tricks up its sleeves, if it had any sleeves. Listen, this is the craziest Dodrio set ever. The Wiki Berry not only heals me, but it gives me a confusion. And now you may be saying, what about confusing yourself does anything good at all? And well, Dodrio gets a little ability called Tangled Feet. While confused, I obviously have to try to break through and get off a Thrash. I hit myself. Of course I do. But while confused, my evasion is increased, and they go for the body press, and it misses. And that is exactly the shenanigans that Dodrio is up to. Tangled Feet allows a move that can never miss to actually miss. And Dodrio's like, basically, you cannot hit me. Only I can hit me. And with that, the battle timer is gonna count down. So that's the end of the game on that one. Technically, Dodrio just stalled out a Hisuian Goodra, and that's a hilarious ass ending. So it's not the ending that Goodra wanted, but it's the ending that it deserved. So with that, that's gonna bring us now into the next game. And you know, Haryama put in some work. Couldn't quite finish it off for us, but still, the hands put in some work. Now, looking at this matchup here, we got an interesting squad. Honestly, pretty scared of everything they've got there. But also, look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, go ahead and do me a favor and hit that like button. You probably haven't hit it yet, and honestly, if you're this far into the thing, you might as well click it. It does help out the channel. So with that, let's go ahead and just jump into the next match. All right, so this time my opponent's gonna lead off with the Hisuian Samurai. Now, just from team preview, I kind of hate to see this thing coming because of the fact that I do not have any hazard removal, and if there's a hazard setting guy, it's freaking Samurai. It can go for a Ceaseless Edge, in the process getting some good damage, but also setting up some spikes. So I'm gonna have to probably deal with the fact that there's gonna be 3 layers of spikes on the field, and my switches are gonna be very limited. So this is a match that I immediately know that I'm probably gonna have to try to get a sweep going, or I will slowly get whittled down by freaking spike switching. So I do decide to just continue to throw Scalds out at this thing. I can chip it, but I can also potentially get a burn. And if I can get a burn, that's basically a useless Narwhal over there. So they set up some more spikes. The second Scald does result in a burn, which is nice because it feels like every time I need Scald to burn, it never does. The second they switch into a special attacker, boom, burns. But hey, I get the burn on the Samurai there, which is great. As they've got 2 layers of spikes, I figure they probably just set 1 more up, just why the hell not? So that allows me to at least set up a recover, which is gonna put Milotic in a spot where it should be healthy enough. I already have my burn active, and I really do need this Milotic as a defensive check to things like Weavile, the Great Tusk, hell, maybe even the Jirachi. So, you know, the moral of the story, Milotic important. So at this point, Samurai I figure they probably just switch out here, right? I don't know what they want to switch into, but I mean, burnt Samurai, they've seen that I have the recover. They know they're not going to really get anywhere too quick with this. So it turns out though, they stay in and go for a Mega Horn for some reason. That's not, you know, I mean, that's fine. This doesn't really do anything. It allows me to go for a Dragon Tail. I try to just kind of stir things up. Problem with Dragon Tail early is that while I don't have any hazards up, they don't really get any punishment for the switch in. So it does end up drawing in a Chandelure, which feels like, you know, either they want to switch this thing out or they have the Energy Ball. And regardless, I feel as long as it's not Specs, I can take an Energy Ball. So I'm going to end up clicking another recover here. They do go for the Energy Ball. I'm like, please no Specs. I live it with 10, which is honestly, I probably should not have risked it. I just felt like Milotic, even after that Mega Horn, probably not as healthy as I would like it, but I get that recover off. Brings me kind of back to where I started, and you know, at half health, it just seems like kind of what I'm gonna have to deal with Milotic here. So, knowing that they just go for another Energy Ball here, my defensive switch in turns out to be Dodrio, which is a sentence that has never been said before, but I go into the Dodrio because more likely than not, that means this thing is probably Choice Scarfed into Energy Ball here. So I come in, I can take an Energy Ball, fine. I mean, not great, but fine. And now, as it's likely Scarfed, I can just go for some damage. I decided to go for the Drill Run just to kind of play it safe. And honestly, to my pleasant surprise, their switch into this turns out to be the Glimmora. They probably are just thinking I go for something like a Brave Bird, but Glimmora comes in his 4 times weak ass to the ground, would have surely deleted it. But of course, you know, it's Focus Sash. Not having my Stealth Rock up comes back to bite me, but it's not actually that big of a deal. That Drill Run knocks it down to 1. It does set up Toxic Debris, so there's hella spikes on my side. It might be just the spikiest side of a field we've ever damn seen. But I'm honestly not worried about the toxic spikes just because of the fact that I do have a grounded poison in the Skuntank. So I finish it off there with a Drill Run just to guarantee I don't miss. Sets up another Toxic Debris, pop his ass like a pinata, But now all I really need to do is just bring in Skuntank at some point before anything else really switches in, and I don't have to worry about the poison at least. So that's a free knockout, essentially. Now, as they go Jirachi, this is a weird matchup. I go for the Drill Run just because I figure it'll do like 40 to 45%, and it misses. That 5% chance to miss truly happens so often with Drill Run, you would be surprised. I think it's 5%, right? Yeah, that's just literally a 95 accurate move, which is annoying. But they go for the Thunder Wave because, of course, this Jirachi has to be Paraflinch, just Serene Grace, Iron Head Jirachi. Now, it does knock me down to my Wiki Berry, which heals me. And, of course, we get that confusion that comes with it. Now, it heals me back over, like, about half, right? And as I'm looking at it here, I do flinch, of course, because, of course I do. I mean, if I didn't flinch, I probably would have gotten paralyzed. But I figure at this point, I'm confused. So as they go for the Iron Head, it misses, which is sick as hell. Not only that, but I do end up breaking through the Parafusion, and I get off a Drill Run. Does do almost half to the thing. It does reveal its leftovers. But this Jirachi is going to be a real pain in all three of my necks at this point. So look, this Dodrio is a gambler. And I decide, you know what? I'm going to take this gamble all the damn way. I'm going to go for the Terra Ground. Only for the chance that if they miss this next attack with my Confusion Evasion and I don't hit myself or get paralyzed, a Terra boosted Drill Run will knock it out. And honestly, that would be sick. They do go for the Iron Head. It, of course, does not miss. And it also just kills me. So, you know, that didn't work out. Now, the reason why I did that was because that first Iron Head did 67 damage to me, and I had 68 HP. So it turns out, you know, they got the high roll there, and they also didn't get the miss. But it was a risky maneuver. I probably shouldn't have done it, but I'm here to heck around anyways, and it didn't pay off. So I got some work to do, however. But one thing I know is, you know, at least maybe I could go Skuntank here, and a Choice Banded Crunch gonna hurt a little bit. I have to go Skuntank anyway to get rid of the Poison Spikes. It just so happens that also, now I threaten this thing with a Crunch. I figured maybe they end up swapping, but screw it. I'm going to go for the Bite anyway. I go ahead and launch him. And look at that. I end up getting the knockout there. Choice Banded Crunch kills the Jirachi at that range. So it turned out that the Dodrio Drill Run put it in range for that to happen. And hey, that's not half bad. So on the revenge switching, they decide to go Chandelure. As much as I would love to Sucker Punch, I am Choice Banded. But here's the thing, as they go for the Overheat, that's actually the best thing that they could click for me, because that drops their special attack. And now, as I'm looking at it here, it's feeling like it's kind of a now or never situation for the Hariyama. Not only has this thing got a dropped special attack, but I'm thick fat, right? So if it goes for another Overheat, it's gonna basically do nothing. I can come in, take a little bit of Spikes damage, you know, of course, but as I go for a Belly Drum here, it's game time. Now they do end up switching, which is exactly what we would have liked to see, because honestly, the free Belly Drum is kind of one of the easiest ways that this thing can even get going. So as they go Samurott, it is going to come in for free, but this thing's burnt. I'm like, Samurott, honestly, even after this Citrus Berry, I don't think this thing can even knock me out. So I maximize my attack. All that Belly Drumming works up an appetite. We now get a Citrus Berry. Just like that, we're at about half. And as I could go for the Bullet Punch, I don't actually think it knocks this thing out. Plus, again, I'm not that worried about a burnt attack from a Samurott. So I just go for the Drain Punch. As they click the Razor Shell, it's going to end up missing, which is clutch, but also payback for that 5% Drill Run miss. And now as I finish it with a Drain Punch, that's going to be a dead Samurott, but also that health that I get back there feels pretty good. We're just going to go ahead and steal some of that. And now, honestly, Hariyama is a pretty big threat. I have the priority Bullet Punch, but they don't know that yet. I haven't used it, and honestly, I'm hoping that I can get their Weavile with it. But first, they decide to go into the Chandelure. I'm not worried about a Chandelure. Again, I'm thick fat, so I essentially resist fire. As they go for the Overheat here, that does nothing. We absolutely eat that up. A huge Overheat from the guy. Thick fat, and he just basically turns that into nothing. And Earthquake is going to finish it off easily. And as down goes the Chandelure, they've now got 2 Mons left. First, it's going to be Great Tusk, and then they have a Weavile. I was really hoping they go Weavile first, because they just don't know about these Bullet Punch hands. So they do end up bringing in the Weavile, and that is absolutely amazing. That could change the game had they not. I decided to just go for that Bullet Punch. An Ice Shard wouldn't even knock me out. They don't go for it. A Bullet Punch easily pops that thing. I was kind of worried about a Focus Sash, but with no Sash, that's a dead Weavile, and Buddy has been bamboozled by the Flesh Hands. As their final mon is going to be the Great Tusk. The problem becomes with Great Tusk is that it outspeeds me, and it can just knock me out from this range. So I'm forced to go for the priority Bullet Punch, but at +6, that's going to do a decent amount to a defensive Tusk. And while it doesn't take it out or anything, that amount of chip is super helpful to hopefully help me clean this up. So they finished me off with a Headlong Rush, but honestly, the Hariyama damage has been done. We are thick as hell and dead as hell, but now the perfect time comes to use the choice, or the special attacking Meowscarada, I mean, this thing got a defense boost either way. Masquerada kind of cleans it up, but I go Masquerada here because I obviously just outspeed, and an energy ball should be able to complete the game for it. And honestly, that Weavile was scary. Things could have gone different had they not got the Weavile bullet punch. So I go for the energy ball here, falls right to the Tusk in the trunk, and that's going to be a great that's going to be a great death for a great Tusk. So that's going to be the end of the game on that one. Hariyama bamboozles people, man. Nobody expect the belly drum. They switch out on the Hariyama just expecting damage, and then boom, belly drum, and all of a sudden they're in trouble. So that's going to do it for the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate all the support, and I will catch you next time. Peace out.